Welcome to the Back Yourself Project podcast, the place where you stop waiting and start moving. This is about taking responsibility, building self-trust, and doing the work required to create the life you know you're capable of. Let's get into it. Here we are, episode 1 of the Back Yourself Project podcast. I'm your host, Ben Cheniart, and welcome to this series. I'm really excited to be launching this platform because it's going to complement a lot of what we do in our community on school with the Back Yourself Project. But in saying that, I always had this ambition that not only have I worked in different areas and fields where I've given advice, support, expertise, communication, general knowledge back and forth between individuals on a professional level, but I've also lacked that ability to give something to the wider community that doesn't have any form of reciprocation. And part of that and part of my own personal growth is by creating something like this platform, I'm able to reach wider audiences, and there's going to be people that I may never come across in this lifetime. But there's going to be some words in there that I hope with inside of me, it will resonate and connect to them. And ultimately, as we say, allow them to back themselves in all things they desire to do in their own life. By bringing different topics across from our community into the general public, there's going to be allowed opportunities for those individuals to find greater purpose in all things that they do. And if we're able to touch the lives of many people, all through this voice, all through this messaging, all through the guests of the future that will come, this is going to be an amazing way to get everybody moving forward together with momentum. And that's definitely a true desire within myself. So to start as the first episode it's very relevant to talk a lot about why most people don't back themselves. And to kick it off, let's dive straight into looking at some of the reasoning why people actually don't back themselves. And one of the biggest key ones that I've seen is people are generally going to hesitate a lot to back themselves for most reasons that are predictable. Most people are not going to lack their own personal insight. They are a hesitation to act on an insight. So again, I'll repeat that though. Most are not a lack of general insight. It's just it's a hesitation to act on that insight because we see things for how we want them to be. The difference is because it might be foreign or never done before, there's going to be a slight sense of hesitation. There's a fear of getting it wrong. So common with people. They assume that the wrong decision will permanently damage their reputation, their career, or ultimately even their own relationships. So think about it. There might be a pause on doing the thing that's going to make the biggest change or doing the thing that's going to move the needle in a positive direction. But there could be this very strong overpowering fear that will this actually affect my reputation? Will this then inhibit or stop me from progressing in my own career? Or will this hurt my relationship that I'm currently having with my partner, with my friends, with my colleagues, name it who it be. There's a sense as well that another reason is waiting for certainty. Many believe that decisions should feel completely clear before they move. How guilty are we of having this so often? This is one of my key big ones for myself is in the past, I wanted to have all the certainty in the world before I made a decision and I felt it was clear and it was good to go. A big one that seems to come up quite a lot in the conversations I've had with individuals is having external validation as well. So think about this. People are often waiting for the approval from their partner, from an employer, from their friends, their social circles, before they even trust their own judgment. Think about that. You're relying externally for someone else to validate something that you know internally based off your own judgment, will be the best move moving forward. But we still will stop ourselves because we haven't sought out that approval. There's a comfort within being familiar as well. So think about when situation is misaligned. So you're getting that sense that you're part of something, you're in something, you're doing a thing, you're involved with a situation, and you know the environment feels safer than the unknown alternative. So think about it again. The known environment, the one that you've always been in, it feels a lot safer than the unknown alternative. There's something new, there's something fresh. I can see that place, I can see that environment, but I'm not going to move into it because I'm safe. I know this. There's a comfort here in what I've already done over and over and over again on repeat. A very big one for people too is the personal identity protection. So backing yourself can require changing how others see you. That's going to threaten the identity that people have built about yourself and how they view you day to day. So again, looking at what is the identity that others perceive me to be within. If I challenge that status quo, what's going to happen to the way people think and feel about me? That's what they perceive. That's my identity. That's who I am. That's what I've always been known as. I got to protect that. It's a very another common reason why people don't back themselves. Having a set of like perfect standards too is quite big. So people delay action because they believe they must execute decisions perfectly the first time. All right, I'm going to go pursue a dream, a hobby, a sport, a business, a health challenge, something right. But if I need to have everything perfect, so then that way when I give it my first crack, I'm going to get it right. It's like you're delaying the notion that failing forward is not an option. But let's be honest here. When it comes to having standards, we're all not perfect in everything that we do day to day. So that means we can't ultimately hold within ourselves having those perfect standards in order to be able to execute either. Things take time, things take trial and error, and things require you to fail forward. This is a normal part of everything. Having a past criticism or failures, these are huge. If you have experienced any previous negative experience that caused you to second guess your instincts when your own judgment is sound, so inside of you, your judgment's great, it knows, but then you're second guessing yourself because instinctively you have a anchor attached to something that's happened in the past. Someone has said a thing, you have potentially failed at something before, things haven't gone your way. This will stop you from pursuing anything that's remotely close to that or vicariously linked to that. This is huge. So these are the most common reasons why people don't generally back themselves. So then why the hesitation, right? So backing yourself is ultimately the thought pattern behind, yes, I can do, I'm going to go for it, I've got the momentum. But then the step before that as well is that hesitation. So where does the hesitation comes from? And it's not laziness. It's generally the risk calculation happening internally. So again, think about inside of you. You're trying to compute things that you want to do in order to break through your own limited hesitation. Internally, there's a series of calculations going on inside of you. They could be physiological feelings, they could be emotional feelings, they could be mental barriers, they could be spiritual barriers. They're all hindering you. It's not the laziness, it's just a sense of hesitation, something that we generate inside, cause and effect, of course. Another hesitation could be the fear of consequential, let me rephrase that actually, not consequential. It's more of a fear of a social consequence. So people worry about disappointing others or they're being judged too. Think about the amount of times that you've wanted to do a certain thing, say a certain thing, within reason, of course, but there's a fear of judgment. So we hold back on that because we don't want to be perceived in a certain light. You could have the fear of instability as well. So a decision may create temporary uncertainty around your own money situation, with your work or your relationships. But with that said, it is human nature. We want to know what's stable. We fear the unknown. So that fear of instability could be another reason why we have that hesitation inside of us. There's a fear of having a sense of responsibility too. You know that once a decision can be made, that outcome ultimately belongs to you. So guess what? That's ownership, right? It's scary, it's tough, but that's another hesitation that people will carry. There's a sense of emotional discomfort. I did speak to that a little bit before, but things like difficult conversations, enforcing boundaries, change often even involves some form of short-term discomfort too. When you're moving into a new space, there's always this sense of new uncomfortable settings, new uncomfortable people to connect with, new uncomfortable ways of living, things that you've desired, and then they actually start coming at you. It's like, whoa, hang on. I don't know this place. Am I actually deserving of it? That's that emotional discomfort too. There's a sense of loss aversion as well. So humans generally prefer avoiding loss more than pursuing growth. I need to read that again because it's pretty crazy. Humans prefer avoiding loss more than pursuing growth. Because let's face it, growth is hard. Loss is easy, right? Being the victim can be very easy too. But pursuing things that you desire take a lot of work, take a lot of time, take a lot of energy. So there's going to be a loss aversion in that. There's a sense of narratives of your own personal timing too. We always are going to be telling ourselves, hey, this is not the right moment right now. Just if I get all these things in order, it's going to be good then. Or, if I wait till I sort of collect this amount of cash in this particular area, then you know what? I'm going to make that move on that thing I desire. Or, hey, you know what? I've got this little niggling pain in my knee. I don't think that exercise program is going to work for me right now. Our doctor said give me about 6 to 8 weeks and I'm going to be perfectly fine. That's narratives inside of us, right? So moving into the next part is how the knowing versus doing gap shows up. Again, how the knowing versus doing gap shows up. And what that means, put in a bit of layman terms here, is we know the things we must do, then there's the gap, and then there's the doing. The gap is the part that's the hardest for us to break through. Okay, so most people already know that there's a direction they need to always move in. The gap appears when the behavior does not follow that knowledge. Again, I want to give you kudos for having the knowledge to always move through that gap. It's just not knowing the direction you need to move in or actually being able to close the gap between the knowing and the doing. And how this can show up is knowing that a job no longer fits, but staying another year, waiting for the right opportunity, the right promotion, whatever that might be. Knowing that conversations need to happen, but avoiding it for months just to keep the peace. Knowing that your health is declined, but delaying training, sleep, or nutritional changes. Knowing a relational dynamic is unhealthy, but you're tolerating it because the change, it's going to feel disruptive to your lifestyle. Knowing that you want to start a project, a business, but spending months researching instead of beginning. Knowing that there's boundaries are being crossed, but continuing to say yes to avoid tension. The pattern is consistent, insight exists, but action is postponed. There's some of your biggest gaps that we find, or I've found personally, when dealing with individuals. So inside the Back Yourself project, we have a set of 5 pillars. I won't go through all 5 right now. That'll be for later episodes. But this episode relates a lot to pillar number 1 that we have, and that's self-trust. And the way that the pillars were formed are looking at my own life, where it came to myself feeling that I couldn't back myself wholeheartedly. The amount of times I've had ideas, thoughts, and beliefs that I wanted to execute, and I've sold myself out of those ideas, have been far too many. There have been far too many dreams that have been and gone, and that's off the back of my own responsibility. I did not back myself. I did not trust myself. By not trusting myself, it erodes away, right? So the issue is rarely awareness, right? It is the willingness to trust your own judgment enough to move before the certainty appears. Self-trust grows through a sense of action you need to be doing in order to grow. And every time someone follows through on what they already know to be true, the gap between knowing and doing closes. So see how that lines up with what we discussed before? The longer actions are delayed, the more the self-trust erodes. And I started this little section by saying that too. Your self-trust begins to erode. You stop believing in yourself because that's the one thing that no longer mattered is, well, if I can't trust myself, then how can I trust in anything that's external to me? So what I wanted to really do based off this is looking at some actions that you as the listener, you can take. So then that way, these things that were discussed, you can see yourself pushing through those limitations. You can take action. You can get momentum, right? So I want you to think of something reflective here. Think of a decision that you already know the answer to, but you've been postponing. It's niggling at you. It's there. It eats at you. You think about it when you wake up. You think about it before you go to sleep. It comes and appears at times that, even when you're busy. I want you to think about one decision you already know the answer to, but you've been postponing. To help you and give you some thoughts on this is some reflections on ending or redefining a relationship that no longer feels healthy for you. Having a great and direct conversation with a partner, the colleagues, a family member about something you've been avoiding. It could be even leaving a role or a particular industry, an environment that feels misaligned to who you are. It's starting a health change that's been postponed for years. You could even go big and look at a business idea or a creative project or a qualification that keeps getting delayed too. This might look like maybe setting a boundary with someone who regularly oversteps your boundaries. You could even be reducing behaviors that are clearly harming your energy, focus, or your own personal well-being. And even looking at making a financial decision that's been avoiding, such as start looking into investing, creating a little savings account, changing your own personal spending habits. So I want you to go away with these two key questions then. What decision do you already know the answer to, but you have been postponing? And what would it look like to take the first step? Or actually reframe that. What would it look like to take the first honest step this week? So again, the two questions that I want to leave with you are: what decision do you already know the answer to, but have been postponing? What would it look like to take the first honest step this week? If this episode helped you move forward, join our free Back Yourself Project community on School, where people are doing the work and backing themselves every day. You can also follow the project on social media. All the links are in the show notes. Until next time, keep backing yourself.